What's up guys, Onmaths here, and we're looking at factors and primes, multiples, and highest common factor, lowest common multiple, that stuff. So first up is Edexcel, and it's asking us to find the lowest common multiple of 40 and 56. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this. Either you can find the product of primes and then draw a Venn diagram and all of that stuff, and we'll come to that method. But the easiest method, if you're able to, which I think we are on this one, is just to write out their times tables. So we're going to do the 40 times table. So we're just going to add 40 each time. Let's stop there for now, and then we'll move on to the 56 times table. So to do 56 times table, you just add 6, which would be 62. Then add 50, which would be 112. And then keep going with that method, so 168, 224, 280, and we go back to the 40 times table and see whether 280 works for that. So we've got 160, 200, 240, 240, and 280. So therefore, the by lowest common multiple, it means the first number in both of their times tables. So the first number in both of their times tables is 280. Now, if you're not that confident to do the times tables, we're going to show a different method, probably on a later question, to show you how to do that with using Venn diagrams. And actually, question B, we're going to be using Venn diagrams for. So it says that A is that number. Now, it's shown the number as the product of primes, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split up the indices. So instead of 2 to the power of 3, I'm just going to write them out like that. Split up 2 squared, so 2 times 2 times 3, and split out that 5 squared, 5 times 5. Okay, now we're going to draw ourselves a little Venn diagram. So like that, and get our 2 circles, whoosh, and whoosh. Probably haven't done this big enough, I never do. And we have this as A and this as B, and we're just going to fill in all the numbers. Any number in both lists goes in the middle, which is why I haven't done this big enough. So we've got 2 there, so 1, 2 goes in the middle there. Got another 2. That 2 there is only in A. Right, we've got a 3. And we've got a 5. And that 5 there is only in B. And to find the highest common factor, all you need to do is multiply together all the numbers that are in the middle. So all the numbers we wrote in the middle, just times them together. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to multiply these together. There's loads of different ways you can do this. So it's 4 times 15, and then 4 times 15 would be, what, 60. Now this is on the calculator paper, this is paper 2, so you could use your calculator for any of that, especially, finding the times tables. Something actually I could talk about briefly is to quickly do the 40 times table. If you get your calculator in front of you, if you type in the number 40 and then press equals, what that does is it stores it in the calculator's memory. Then if you click answer plus 40, then every time you press equals, it will give you the next number in the 40 times table. So if you keep pressing equals, it will keep generating the number for you. And especially with 56, it's dead easy, dead quick to do. I can just rattle them off really, really quickly. So let's move on to OCR. And OCRs asked us to find the product of primes. Now, a couple of different methods for this. What you can do is draw a line down and then write down all of the prime numbers here, and then divide them out here. I'm not going to do that method. I like the other method better. The other method is you draw them as kind of a tree diagram like that. Okay, I don't circle those ones. I only circle primes in mine. Now, this is on a calculator paper, so you are able to use a calculator here, so I can get my calculator out. And any number that ends in 24680 is in the 2 times table, so I know 2 can be divided out. And we're looking for prime numbers when we do this. So 2 is a prime number, and it can be divided out. And that leaves 252. Now what I do is I just circle all the prime numbers I found, because basically that's the end of the tree. The tree stops when it hits a prime number, because all you're going to do then is say, right, 1 times 2, and then 1 times 2, and it just goes on forever. So you stop. Right, this is also even, so 2 is going to be in this one, so divide by 2. Circle that 2, and when I divide it out, I get 126. Again, it's even, so divide it by 2, and we've got 63. Now here you need to know your times tables, or just sit there dividing 63 by stuff until you find one that works. 63 is not a prime number because it's in the 7 times table, so we divide that by 7 and we get 9. Now some people would stop there, but unfortunately 9 is not a prime number either. 9 is 3 times 3. I've kind of gone over the other question a little bit there. Now it says to write our answer as a product of prime factors. The things that are circled in red are the prime factors, but when it says product, it means we have to times them together. So I always do them in order of size. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. Now you could write 2 to the power of 3 times 3 squared times 7, and that would still be correct. But you only have to write it that way if it then says leave your you leave your answer in index form. So if the question says leave your answer in index form, you have to do it this way. Otherwise, I would just leave it as I've done it in the answer field there, because that would still get the full marks. Right, next one. Find the lowest common multiple of 180 and 504. So we're going to do the same as we did on the previous question on the Edexcel one. And we're going to do the Venn diagram, but we do something slightly different at the end to find the lowest common multiple. Now there's a reason why they've picked 504, because we've just worked out the product of prime factors for it. So we've kind of helped ourselves out a bit, because we don't then need to do that with both numbers, but we do have to do that for 180. 180 is a nice number to do it for, because it's 2 and 90, 2 and 45, what is it, 9 and 5. And if you ever get in a situation here where you've got the prime on the right hand side, you can just split up the one on the left, that's fine. So we've got 3, 3, 5, 2, 2. Okay, so I'm going to write out the numbers so that I can cross them off. So we've got 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. What was it, 504. We've already got above, so I'm just copying this down from above. Okay, let's get my Venn diagram now. I'm going to learn from my mistake. I'm going to do it nice and big. Make sure there's a big overlap. So, massive overlap. See, that's much better. Dodgy circle, but what can you do? We have 180 here, so I'm just labelling them. So these are just to show anyone who's looking which one's which. So 2 is in both lists, so that goes in the middle. This 2 here is in both lists, that goes in the middle. This 2 here is only in 504. 3 is in both lists, that goes in the middle. 3 is in both lists, that goes in the middle. That 5 is in the 180 only. And that 7 there is only in the 504. Okay, now to find the highest common factor, we multiply these together. That's the highest common factor. But to find the lowest common multiple, we multiply all of them together. Now, again, I stress this is also a calculator paper, so we can just get our calculator out, and I'm just going to literally times all the numbers. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do them in the order I see them. So 5 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 2 times 7. That's all the numbers in the Venn diagram. So 5 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 2 times 7. And that gives me the answer of 2,520. which is the correct answer, hopefully. Now, someone asked me, or one of my students asked me a year ago, they said, can you not just multiply all these together? Would that not give you the same answer? And the reason that doesn't give you the same answer is, notice when I wrote this 2 down here in the Venn diagram, when I wrote that 2 down there, I crossed out 2 of them, but I only wrote it once, and that's the difference. Anything that goes in the middle, you write down twice on the left hand side, you cross out 2 of them, but you only write 1 of them. Okay, so if you were kind of puzzled by that as well, then that's the answer, that these middle ones, and I've started so I'll finish, these middle ones here get crossed out twice, but only written down once. I thought we'd end on a quite nasty question, and this definitely follows that, especially question 5 on the AQA paper. So it says write down highest possible value of a over b if a is the common factor of those 2 numbers and b is the common multiple of those 2. So lots going on here. With this type of question, you've got to figure out what it is you're looking for. And so we've actually got to read and understand kind of this part here first. Now, it says there that we were looking for the highest possible value. Now, to make a fraction really big, we want the top to be really big. Okay, so you imagine the top is like a cake, right? We want a massive cake, so a bigger cake as possible. But the bottom is how many slices you're cutting that cake into, and you're only getting 1 slice. And so you want that to be as small as possible. Okay, simple as that. So we want A to be really big, like big cake, and we want B, which is the amount of slices in this analogy, we want that to be as small as possible. Because you imagine if we only have like 1 cut, like that's the whole cake, right? So if B is 1, we get everything, all right? And if B is 0.5, we get double the amount, okay? So we want B to be small, A to be big. That's all we need to figure out for this question. So I've started in reverse. I'm going to keep going in reverse because A is probably the harder bit of the 2. So this says that B is a common multiple of 6 and 9. We know we want B to be as small as possible, so we're looking for the lowest common multiple. And this shouldn't be too difficult. And I'm going to do it up here because I feel I'm going to run out of space otherwise. So times tables, 6, 12, 18, 9, 18. So lowest common multiple is 18. So therefore, B will be 18. That's the smallest common multiple. Okay, let's go on to A. Now, there are different ways of doing A. If you're really good with factors, which some of you will be, you can just do it straight away. You wouldn't have any issue with doing it just like that. For most of us, we're not that good with factors of really big numbers. So we're going to do it a long way. I think the factor that this will be, if I'm correct, is over 20. So you might not know your obscure times tables above that. So let's do it the long way. So we're going to do the same as we've done before. We're going to have 72, split it up. So 2 times 36. And 2 times 18. 2 times 9. 3 times 3. I've used my circling colour on this, so I'm going to have to use a different colour. Okay, do the same again with the other one. 120, so 120, so that'd be 2 times 60, 2 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 5. And the reason I'm going through this quickly is because we've already talked about this on the previous question. So let's write them out. So 72, 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. 120, 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Right. What I could do is I could now draw a Venn diagram and do all of that. But I'm going to just try and figure this out without drawing a Venn diagram. Okay? So dangerous, but we can cope. Now, as I said in the previous question, the numbers that go in the middle, when we multiply them all together, that gives us the lowest common factor. Okay. Or the highest common factor, whoops. That gives us the highest common factor. Okay, when we multiply all the numbers in the middle. And to get the numbers, we find out all of the common numbers. So I'm going to try and do this, the highest common factor. I'm going to try and do this without doing the Venn diagram. So I'm going to cross out the 2's and write it once. I'm going to cross out the 2's and write it once. Cross out the 2's there and write it once. Cross out the 3's there and write it once. And that 3 and the 5 left over are just in one of the lists, so we don't use those. Remember, for lowest common multiple, I would then multiply the 2 times 2 times 3 and then times the 3 and the 5. Okay. So when I work that out, I will get 24, hopefully, because 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, so 4 times 6 is 24. So we've got A is 24. Now it says work out the highest possible value of A over B, so we've just got to finish it off. So A over B equals, well, B is 18 and A is 24. So A over B will be 4 over 3, or I suppose I could write 1 1/3. I'm pretty sure 4 over 3 would be fine. If you did it on a calculator, you'd get, 1.3 recurring, so that would be a fine answer. And yeah, so quite a tricky little question there. There's a lot of stuff to do, and I think if you were doing the exam, you'd be like, okay, question 5, nice and easy to get us started. But there's a lot of work there, but you do get rewarded. It's 4 marks, and there's nothing that's really difficult in there if you break it down. If you understood that you're looking for the highest common factor and the lowest common multiple. If you were looking for the highest common multiple, that would be infinity. If you're looking for the lowest common factor, that would always be 1. So you'd end up with all sorts of problems with that. I hope you found today's video useful. If you did, then please click like. If you want to see more from us, we release videos every single day, Monday to Friday, so every single weekday. So click subscribe, make sure you're up to date. There's loads more stuff, loads more free stuff on our website, onmaths.com. So just go there, check it out. I'm sure there's a card that will magically appear above me to guide you there. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.